I think it took me 8 months, Justin, to get my first deal. And that was with like putting in 8 to 10 hours a day sometimes. Usually, like those cold call days were closer to like 12 to 14. I mean, I just never wanted to work for anyone. I always wanted to work for myself because like any trade, I feel like you got to put in that time. Even if you're going to go into corporate America, you're going to be putting in the 12 to 14 hour days because leads will be the lifeblood of your business. If you don't have leads, your business is not operating the way that it should. So as long as you can get
That's for
enough
sure.
motivated sellers in the door, which will allow you to learn through that pipeline, find a beast like Justin and now myself we can help you close and get through that dispo process. It all comes down to, do you
100%.
have sellers that want to talk? We had pre-foreclosures, people in financial difficulty. You have probates, which is just people in emotional distress as a result of a family member passing away. And I also know divorces, which also surround that emotional distress.
I'm here with Ryan Sher, a very special guest with me. I've known him for about 2 years now. What do you think?
Probably
How
two,
long?
three,
Yeah,
two or
so
3 years.
it's been a great journey learning and growing with Ryan over the past couple years, and I think he has a very exciting story on being able to accomplish deals while still in college. So, like, what are you going to college for, and how do you actually mix in doing college and running a business at the same time?
Yeah, totally. So, A, appreciate the intro, Justin. B, I started wholesaling real estate my sophomore year in college. I was actually started making cold calls out of my fraternity house bedroom. So that was always
Wow.
a fun situation to have. Yeah, just balancing school, social life with starting the business. And essentially, I studied in school. My major specifically was personal finance, which was putting me on like that certified financial planning, wealth management track. And essentially, I
Okay.
got lucky with those classes weren't really as rigorous, where I was still able to allocate 4 or 5 hours a day on the low end to the business while still doing decent in school.
Okay, awesome. So, like, how did you find out about real estate? Like, what kind of excited you to even want to, like, get started and take an action?
100%. So I was always interested in like financial freedom, location freedom, time freedom, those big three, if you will. And I definitely, just like a lot of other people, was just online, social media during COVID, had a lot of free time, just kind of looking into
Uh-huh.
various side hustles. I tried like the Amazon FBA, I tried Airbnb arbitrage, and for a bunch of
Okay.
reasons, which the biggest one was probably just A, analysis paralysis, and B, just not sticking with it long enough. Those weren't for me. And eventually I came across wholesaling, and that's kind of where I dove right in and started to learn about it.
Okay. So, was there, like, a certain person that you saw that was like, I want to be like this guy? Or what was, like, most people just don't switch to a new thing that fast? Or, like, what was the thing for you?
For sure.
So, like,
So for me, probably a couple things. I think for starters, it was that shiny object syndrome that a lot of people have, where you can make 10K plus a month online
uh-huh,
virtually with these properties without you ever having to go there, without you ever having to
uh-huh,
see it. So for me, primarily, I came across Zach and Rick Ginn with Flip with Rick,
uh-huh.
and they gave
Yeah.
me
Okay.
all of the education to learn how to wholesale. I mean, you just put in your email. I think it's still like this. I'm not sure. Like you put it in email, and you essentially got this free course. And I kind of dove in very obsessively, I would say. And I definitely, looking back on it now, I wish I took action sooner. Like the biggest thing is just getting on the phone. But I essentially
Uh-huh.
learned the ins and outs. And then when it came time to taking action and finally taking calls, when it came down to where did I actually start doing deals, that's where I found an A player wholesaler like yourself, Mr. Justin, who I was able to
Yeah.
call, and we started working together.
Okay, so how did you exactly find me, and like how did like decide to want to form a relationship with me to do deals? Like, did I help you do your first deal, or like what was that stage in your career when we first met?
You didn't help me do my first deal. You helped me do my first
Okay.
two. And the way that that happened was
Uh
I
huh.
saw you on Facebook, just act like pretty active in a bunch of groups, just responding to other people that either A needed help and where you're providing
Uh
value, or B just deals where people were looking to get them sold on the dispo end, where you were pretty buyer heavy. Where I just kept seeing
huh.
you say, hey, shoot me a message. Hey, here's my phone number. Reach out. And I saw
Yeah.
that. I checked out your profile, and I'm like, yeah, he looks pretty young, similar to me, similar core values. And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? Let me hit you up. So I think I either gave you a text or I called you, and basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember it. I reached out to you and was like, hey, Justin, I'm Ryan. This is what I do. I kind of laid out my situation, that I was hungry, that I was here for the long haul, and I was like, I have
Yeah.
qualified leads that I'm paying for that are coming into my CRM. I'm calling them every day. I don't have the experience of closing a deal, and I don't have it with the seller, and I don't have any experience with buyers on the dispo end, as well as like transaction help with escrow. I'm willing to do
Okay.
clean 50-50 JV. I just would love your guidance with you kind of hand holding me. And
Yeah,
probably
I
it
want
was
something
definitely
like
it's
that.
definitely a sweeter deal for me looking back on it now. I mean, you definitely. I
Yeah.
remember calling you in the middle of the day, like yo, and you were like dealing with your own
We gotta
stuff,
follow
building
up
your
on
team.
this
I'm like,
call.
yeah, I was like, let's go. We gotta call this guy right now. But I
Yeah,
mean,
which was
we
kind
you
of
did it
fun because, like, even the like the reason I did it is at least I believe like the hardest part is getting a good lead or deal, like on the table. So you were willing to put in that front end work, so I was willing to collaborate. Some people do charge like 60-70%, like just for getting on the negotiation and dispo side, which we were doing both, but you did a lot of follow up. You were helping stay super organized on the CRM, like with task and calendar,
Oh
right?
yeah, you were not a fan of the task. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Well,
man, yeah, Podio. That was fun.
Podio is a beast, but it's actually the best way to get started. I'd say, like for a free CRM, like when you were just getting started, you didn't have your first deal. Like now, you might have upgraded to a new CRM, but we'll get into that.
For
So
sure. I would
let's
say too, just real quick before your question,
yeah.
with Podio, very user friendly. So like, and it's
Uh-huh.
also like specifically for wholesaling. I think there's a lot of businesses where you can get random CRMs, which like you said, you want to dive into. But if you're just starting out, guys, Podio, you can easily learn, and there's videos out there where you can get full tutorials that will exactly set up how it should look for a wholesale deal.
100%. Yep. So you watched those YouTube videos when you were first getting started, and that's how you figured it out.
Watch those YouTube videos, dive through the course, and like that's all good and fun with like physically learning.
Uh-huh.
But with a lot of things, I believe that for you to actually learn, you need to just get on the phone and just dive right in.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was scary, and obviously, it didn't
Uh-huh.
seem as optimal as it would when you have a bunch of experience. But I think once I started hopping on the calls, doing cold calling, where I was able to get those leads, that made me really appreciate that grind. And then from those follow ups, that's when I was nurturing them and then reaching out to you for help on the closing side onward. But I would say a big thing too that was very helpful was getting some leverage in my marketing. So that would be like using virtual assistants for one, or just changing up my marketing channel where I just had more motivated sellers in that lead pipeline.
Beautiful. So you were doing virtual assistants like right away, even though you didn't do your first deal yet.
I started doing virtual assistants before I closed the deal, yes, which looking back
Uh-huh.
on it now, would I do that? Unsure. I think it really just depends on how much capital I have available. I think that cold calling is a super low leverage task, so there definitely is benefit to having cold callers for you or having a different lead channel in which you can get sellers that talk to you because leads will be the lifeblood of your business. Like Alex Ramosi says, who I know you're a big
Yeah.
fan of, I'm a big fan of. If you don't
Uh-huh.
have leads, your business is not operating the way that it should. So as long as you can get
That's for
enough
sure.
motivated sellers in the door, which will allow you to learn through that pipeline, find a beast like Justin and now myself who can we can help you close and get through that dispo
Uh-huh.
process. It all comes down to, do you
100%.
have sellers that want to talk?
Yeah. So how do they get sellers that want to talk? Like what list were you pulling? Like how did you decide who wanted to call? Like maybe you tried a bunch of things that didn't work, did work. What did you learn like during that beginning phase and like up until where you are at now?
Yeah, so in terms of lists, and you taught me this, it was just essentially like stacked lists. where you just find those biggest three pillars of motivation. So the way that I saw it, based off the way we conversed, we had pre-foreclosures, people in financial difficulty. You have probates, which is just people in emotional distress as a result of a family member passing away, where they get inherited that property and they don't want anything to do with it. And I also know divorces, which also surround that emotional distress, have been very popular, where you can get some motivation there. For different exit strategies, different things may work. But when I was getting data myself to plug into cold calling for those virtual assistants to call and bring leads, those were the lists that I was trying to target.
Got you. So, like, where did you get those lists, and where can they get them today?
So there's a couple softwares out there like PropStream and Batch Leads where you can get those lists. Um, Transparently, they are very saturated. Where the joke is, and I know we've talked about this before, everyone and their mother has those lists where
Hmm.
those sellers may not be as motivated to talk to you. So that's where you can get kind of creative and either find someone that can like create some sort of scraper online where you can get authentic county data. You can use companies, like I don't want to name anyone specific, but there are companies that
You can manually
physically,
pull it too,
yeah,
right?
you can manually do
Like,
it.
just like you just said, scraper though. Like, if they're trying to get started for free, like I'd recommend just looking at like the newspaper or the county records and just reading it and calling them off True People Search, not paying for skip tracing. Or you can pay for skip tracing through Batchley's or PropStream or one of these other companies overall. But sometimes those people are good too. So overall, and every state is different. So I'm not sure where everyone's at in the country as far as this audience. Like, but it just use Google, use ChatGPT, like try to find different answers like for your area. I'd say like which areas were you targeting at first as well? Like for like where do you think like your actual like those first two deals we did came from? Like, because you were pulling lists. I also sent you some leads, I believe, like
You did.
of my old leads. So different things like that.
So
Do you have any idea where they
probably,
come from?
yeah, I think ours came from probably those cold call virtual assistance leads, or they were, now that I think about it, okay, I remember. So one of them was a direct to agent lead, that our Oklahoma deal. That was direct to agent, which came from my old acquisitions manager.
Oh
So
yeah,
that one was like I don't want to maybe a pocket listing because we had to pay that guy the referral who wasn't the agent.
yeah,
So I think we had there was that,
for like
and then I
500
think
or something.
yeah, we gave him $500 referral, and we did well on that deal, bro. I think we made like seventeen
Yeah,
five.
yeah,
It was a
somewhere around 17.5. If people want the HUD, like I'll put the HUD
we'll
in the
post it.
description for both deals. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. We're not, we practice what we preach over here. We had that
Yeah.
one, and then I think that PA deal was yours from your old PPC list, if I remember correctly.
The Pennsylvania one.
Yeah, and then I think
Yeah.
you should tell everyone what happened with the buyer. Remember
Yeah.
what he did?
Yup. Yeah. So he I ended up putting this deal on Investor Lift, right? And he came to us acting as if he was the buyer, but he pretty much paid full price of what we were asking. We were just trying to make 5,000 on this house. It was like what was it, like a 40,000 house, or what? Do you know the exact price? Somewhere
I
around
think
there.
it was I think it was like 10 or 15 grand. Like it was something like really cheap, and then he tacked on like double and then just doubled it because he lived in that
Yeah.
like small, I think it was Johnstown, Pennsylvania, like something super random.
Well, he didn't live there, so he's actually a hard money lender and he's also a real estate coach. So he teaches people how to flip and he lends them the money at the same time. So
Oh,
then he just gives, and he gets equity on the flips too. So he's like getting paid on the assignment when they make money on the flip, coaching, the lending, everything.
it's quadruple dipping right there.
Quadruple dipping, bro. So
Yeah,
he made like
that's
10 G's
crazy.
on that. We made 2,500 each. And then the other one we paid the connector. Oh, what was her name? Nikki, or what was her name?
Yeah, Nikki got a
Yeah,
piece. And then I
Yeah.
would say too, bro, I mean like for just starting out, like even 2,500, which like that's good money. Like that could be salary for a virtual assistant for a couple months, which could in turn just get you more leads, just investing right back into the business. Justin, I think
Yeah.
everyone would love to hear this. In terms of you get your first big check, right? And like that's super exciting. You want to go buy that that sexy iPhone or whatever. But how important is it for you to take your profits and throw it back into the business while you're first starting out?
I think it's gonna be like the number one thing you should be doing overall. Like either virtual assistants or Google, Facebook ads. If you're making a good enough amount of money, I would recommend like you could do PPL even get like put like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 at a time, and then later on when you have like 5 or 10,000 a month, you can do like PPC and Facebook. So different things
A
like
thousand
that is
percent.
what I'd recommend it. But I'd say you can get these free deals still with the realtors, like how Nikki found that realtor and played that acquisition role, or how we actually had that different marketing partner who actually helped with lead generation sometimes, and they pay for the lead generation. So you can pay
Absolutely.
people to invest into your business as well.
There's a lot of solid channels. I would say now, if you have the capital or you close a couple deals, I think diving straight into inbound is such the move, even if you like remotely have an idea of what your sales process is. For anyone that doesn't know, so you have inbound leads and you have outbound leads. Outbound leads would be specifically for like cold calling, where you're reaching out to these sellers asking if they want to sell your house, versus you have inbound, where these sellers are either filling out some sort of web form from the ads, or they're opting into some sort of agency like a PPL, pay per lead, where then they notify the wholesalers that they are consenting to being contacted. But essentially, it skips that whole initial, hey, do you want to sell your property step? Because you're getting people that are motivated, and that saves your cost to contract in terms of time, and it allows you to get paid quicker because you're closing quicker to dump back into marketing just to then turn the wheel over again. That's kind of my 2 cents. But what do you think,
For
Justin,
sure.
about inbound versus outbound?
I think inbound you make money faster, because they're more motivated. They're coming to you. And outbound sometimes can happen fast, but not all the time. You got to have the right motivated niche leads we were talking about earlier, and there has to be like a set timeline, dead date that they're gonna have to act fast on. But like with inbound, they're ready to sell today. Like they're gonna be making a decision pretty quickly most of the time.
Definitely. I mean, like every channel works, in my opinion. Like we've done deals probably on almost every channel combined at this point, but it's just about sticking to something long enough to learn the in and outs and just like failing a bunch of times and getting those feedback loops and learning from it to be able to then have that system that optimizes well.
Yeah. So I think the one that we closed in Pennsylvania actually came from me paying speed to lead back in the day on
I think you're right.
different inbound leads. So if people want to get leads from speed to lead, I'll also put an affiliate down below if you want to use their leads. Sometimes they're
For
good,
sure.
sometimes they're overused. That's the honest truth. But you can pay for like exclusive versus non-exclusive. I think I was buying a lot of non-exclusive leads at the time.
Yeah, I love that because it's at the end of the day, if you're confident in your sales process, it doesn't matter if they're non-exclusive because you're going to beat them to the next guy. And I think that comes down to speed to lead. Like with these paper leads, the way that Justin and I would call, you got to call them immediately. Like you get that text at 5:01 before the time it's 5:02 for you to have the best chance at closing them. You want to be on the phone with them. And I'll let you guys do your research, but I'm going to throw in a property leads affiliate link. So that way they got options with what kind of PPL they want to use and
Yeah,
let them kind
sure.
of look into it. And then
I'll
you got options.
I'll throw that in the description for them.
Love that.
Well,
Well, yeah, we can get them right on
how's your
inbound.
experience with them? You've closed some deals with property leads now.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've definitely closed a fair amount of leads with property
Mhm.
leads. We've been doing a lot of novations lately, which has
Mhm.
been longer to get paid, but has advanced out the cash conversion cycle. So for anyone listening, so innovation, that was actually Justin taught me that. That was our first deal. That Oklahoma deal was a novation where
Yeah.
I don't even know if it got listed because it was the agent's son
Yeah.
that bought it.
We were
But
blessed by
essentially,
that.
yeah,
But
that
it was
was
still a
huge.
conventional deal. So, like, the real meaning of the novation, what do you think it is? Let's hear it.
The way that I see it, essentially, so novate is the specific term, but it's essentially like two transactions. Like you'll have two closing statements. So essentially, like a normal assignment with a cash deal, you have the seller to the buyer, and then your fee as the middleman is just the assignment fee. With the novation, you have two, where essentially you're the buyer from the seller, and then essentially you're the seller to the buyer, but it creatively works on paper where you don't have to come up with the funds if it's a cash transaction, where it could still be like a middleman transaction. But the main thing
Yeah.
too with this is it gives you the luxury to be able to list the property on the MLS, the open market. You get something with the seller signed, which is called an attorney in fact, where this is limited. So it just allows you to sign listing documents with a realtor to get it on the open market. The way that I've noticed, and let me know what you think, Justin, I think when you do list properties on the open market, it allows retail buyers, which would just be like a family or a mom and pop, if you
Yeah.
will, to buy the property to live there instead of an investor. And the thing is, in my opinion, these retail buyers, people buying to live there, they buy based on emotion instead of an investor that buys based on logic. So as a result of that, or someone buying to live there, if it's already a pretty property, they're going to pay more than an investor that needs to have a bottom line because they're emotionally attached over here to living there. What do you think
Yeah.
about that and my definition of innovation?
I think that's pretty spot on. I think most people think that they have to do like rehab to do innovation because a lot of people talk about it like that. You don't need to do any rehab, and we prefer it that way. We're just trying to find a nice homestead buyer to buy this as a conventional FHA, VA loan, and see what they can do.
Yeah, definitely makes life easier when you go about it that way. Oftentimes in my pitch to the seller, I'll explain it as if we're facilitating the sales process. If the property needs some paint, sure, maybe I'll invest a couple grand or a few hundred,
Yeah.
depending on how big the property is, to do that. Just that way we have more monetary interest beyond earnest money. Sometimes with innovation, because you're selling to a retail buyer, your fee, it might take longer to get paid, but your fee is typically going to be larger than some of these cash deals. So sometimes, depending on the title company you use, the seller will actually see how much you're making on innovation, and if that rubs them the wrong way because you're making a killing, sometimes that gives you complications at the closing table. So, in a court of law, if you have more financial, and this is not legal advice or financial advice, do your own diligence, guys, on anything. I am not advising you to do this, but this is just from I had to throw that in there. But from my experience, when you have more financial interest in the property, that shows more intent and obligation to the property, which a judge is more likely to rule in your favor versus if you just had a small earnest money deposit with nothing else to show for it.
Yeah, well, I also believe you can put a memorandum on the house, and which is kind of like a lien, so they can't make the
Yes.
sale unless you agree to release that lien. So you would have to come up with a settlement amount.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the memo is huge as well. I think if they were to try to challenge the memo when you are like, hey, I mean, I've been cutting the grass for the past 2 months and I painted these walls. I think that will help too. And like you said, having that memo too gives you the leverage because maybe your fee was only going to be 10 grand, but they try to screw you or not sign. But you're like, hey, I clouded title with this memo, so you cannot close with anyone else until I lift up this lien. And for me to lift up that lien, you're going to pay me 10 grand, maybe even 15 for the emotional
Wasting my time.
distress and time and yeah, wasting my time. So I'm going to make more now because you tried to pull some BS. So and then yeah, you have all the
Yeah.
leverage there.
Yep. I agree. So, what is your advice like from learning on those first two deals and what you're learning now to like people just getting started in wholesaling? Like, if you had to redo it all over again, like what would be like the game plan you give to everyone?
That's a great question. And I've thought about that a lot because obviously you can't change the past, but I believe that you can learn from it. And then you can intentionally act in the present to impact your future and plan for that accordingly. So what I would have done earlier, which I realized and then decided to do, is hire a mentor because you can skip and it's worth it to pay to play because you will be able to skip so much time in a term that Sam Singh, who's an absolute beast that I know Justin and I'm a big fan of, and I know Justin likes him too, ignorance debt, which essentially this term is like your opportunity cost of time that it would have taken you to learn all the things that you could have just learned by paying somebody because that cost is probably going to probably be less than the amount of time and money that it costs for you to learn every single thing on your own through the lessons and potential missed out deals versus if you just paid to get that knowledge. So I would say paying for a mentor first up because that's going to put you in a really great position. It probably took me, I think it took me 8 months, Justin, to get my first deal. And that was with like putting in 8 to 10 hours a day sometimes. Usually, like those cold call days were closer to like 12 to 14. So definitely
What
like
made you
was
not want
locked
to
in.
quit? Like,
I mean, I just never wanted to work for anyone. I always wanted to work for myself. And I knew that
okay,
for me, because like any trade, I feel like you got to put in that time. Even if you're going to go into corporate America, you're going to be putting in the 12 to 14 hour days. And I noticed that I have a pretty high risk tolerance. So for me, I didn't really see an issue with having little to no money in college that I would spend stuff on for myself. I'm grateful that I was able to have help with certain things, and that also gave me the bandwidth to take those bigger swings where if I didn't have that much money and I could just invest it back into the business and take that risk, it would be worth it because I would get the delayed gratification of time later as a luxury
yeah.
to live on my own terms. I mean, I could
So
ask you the
like,
same question. I mean, why did you take that
yeah,
jump?
yeah. Well, I was sticking at it because I thought I would make billions off this industry. Because
Still could.
yeah, still could and still am. So, but with me just getting started, I just knew real estate was a little bit more fun, and I liked doing sales, talking to people. I was doing stock market day trading for 2 years before that, and I still like the stock market, but I don't trade it anymore for the past 3 years. And I had to. My dad gave me like a choice to pretty much. He didn't say like stop doing it or anything, but he just said you're not gonna really succeed doing part time this and part time real estate. So I went all in on real estate, and I was doing 2 months real estate part time, and then 2 months full time. And those 2 months full time is when I got my first deal. And
Beautiful.
yeah,
I bet that paints the picture too of not diversifying your time. Another indirect mentor of mine, and I know as well as yours. I know I'm speaking for you a lot, but it's just because I'm so certain here. Alex Hermosi, he has been pivotal for both of our journeys thus far, and will continue to. And shout out to him. He's got his next book launch next week. But anyway, he's
yeah,
got a principle about watering the plant where let's say that each plant is an industry or niche of something that you're working on to grow your financial situation. So like maybe right here you got day trading, right here you got real estate wholesaling, and right here you got physical property investment to do fix and flips, for example.
yeah,
The way that Hermosi would explain it is that if you spent equal amounts of time, a third, a third, a third, and each of those times were amounts of time is water and miracle grow. If you're gonna water those plants, they will probably be all come up to like here, for example. Maybe one's a little bit higher than the other just because you're better at it. Versus if you find whatever you're best at and just take 100% of your time and just water that plant, your output as a result of your input is going to be significantly higher if you just go all in on that one thing. And I mean, the end goal is to be able to just have that luxury from your output. So the way that I see it and the way that Alex explained it, go all in on one, just like you saw, because that's what you did, and you're obviously yielding the fruit from that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. When you put all in on one thing for 12 hours a day for 3 years, like it compounds like crazy.
Like
so make
crazy.
sure make sure you're not losing track of whatever you're going on in your life, whether it's gambling, woman, drugs, different things in your life that are
Alcohol.
slowing you down. Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
All of them, bro. They're all there, and come from someone that was in a fraternity. Like all those things are going to be there, and they'll continue to be when you grow older. And I mean, we're both early 20s. Like that stuff's
Yeah.
like at its peak of in our environments. So I think it's
Mhm.
important that, and you can still do that stuff. I mean, it's just moderation,
Yeah.
just being able to specifically allocate time with okay, like there's nights I'm not going to drink because I want to wake up fresh, and I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have these time blocks to grind, to work on my craft, and then I'll have these times to recharge that battery, socialize with friends. But I think that balance, in its own way, I think like the work life balance, and I love that we went here. So the work life balance, I think, is so like if you ask Alex Ramosi, if you ask Bill Gates, if you ask Elon Musk, Donald Trump, like they're all going to tell you that work life balance, like it doesn't
It's
exist.
bullshit.
Like it's bullshit. Like it's going to be significantly skewed in the work versus the play category. You may ask a lot of people that are in different situations that may try to talk about things being balanced, but I think I always like to pose it as a question. Think about who you look up to. Think about whose life you want to emulate for yourself, and then obviously have your own creative individual spin on it. But essentially, if you want to have an uncommon life with just uncommon, unbelievable, amazing results, you're gonna have to make choices and put in your inputs of time, sacrifice a lot of things that the average Joe won't. So that work life
Yeah.
balance probably won't be there
Yeah.
for
Well,
a little bit.
actually, if you actually do an enormous amount of work and then you figure out, it'll kind of like whenever things are not in balance. Actually, eventually they're gonna always go back into balance. Like it's the natural law of the universe. So, but for you to reach to the next level, you gotta be in unbalance, and then there's gonna be a new level of balance, not the balance you were at before, but a new balance you created. I'd
I
say.
couldn't agree more to that. New levels, new devils, and I think at the same time with that you're going to be able to create leverage and freedom of time as a result of all the time that you sacrifice and put into your craft at this level, where maybe you spend less time on the social stuff and the play, if you will, to build the business, but during that building stage, you hired a bunch of sales reps, you got a dispo, maybe you had someone overseeing them, where that now creates a lot of time back in that new season where you can either compound on that, start a new trade, do more visionary stuff with your time, but it will also give you more time for that quality time that you're still looking for. And I think each stage and season in life, it's important to have everything in its own way. But I believe that as long as it works for you, who cares what anyone else says?
Mhm. Yeah. Beautiful. So, how did you make it work? Like, I know you were in college, but I'm kind of curious on this one. Like, in Australia, like, how did you balance your life, like, and work in Australia?
Yeah, great question, and I'm gonna be super honest with this one. Just like I have with everything else, I believe that authenticity is super important, and I will try, and I won't try. I will keep that energy with everything. So, with this humbling, so Australia, the business slowed. I will not lie. I definitely was calling leads at 4 in the morning Australia time to get them in US time. So for the
Uh-huh.
people that don't know, I did a study abroad program in Sydney, Australia for about 5 months where I was just, yeah, other side of the world, completely different time zone. And in Australia, I still had leads that I was calling. And I actually, this is kind of funny, I made a bunch of hires right before I went, primarily all commission only, to try and create a leverage version in the business where as a very new wholesaler, maybe a year and like a quarter in, I really didn't know shit. So I was really in no position to be a leader. Especially it's funny because I laugh at that now, the old me coming up on 3 years plus. But essentially, I spent time calling these leads, but a lot of it got to a point where I was really just spending more time putting out fires because the team that I put in place didn't understand things to the level that I did. That with my input of time, it probably would have been more optimal for me just to have not hired anybody and done everything myself with the time that I was putting in. But it hit a certain point. It was probably like, honestly, bro, like probably March, where I wasn't seeing the result. People were kind of quitting on me. I definitely quit on myself for a little bit, where I was just like, I'm in Sydney, Australia. Like, how often could I have these opportunities? And I use that time just as kind of like a mental, personal reset where I just kind of slowed the business. I called some of those hotter leads just to nurture the time, like the pipeline, but only a couple hours a week. Where I used that at that point, 3.5 month period just to unplug. I was really not on the phone at all, honestly, and
Hmm.
it allowed me to just kind of have the reset and recharge that I needed. I got very much into self like identification of the self, meditation, just like holisticness, and it just like allowed me to be focused on being present. And I believe that
Hmm.
that time allowed me to gain the wisdom and kind of like it I was like on the verge of burnout, and then having this save that, and I think charged me and amped me up enough with new knowledge that allowed me to come back even stronger and more powerful, which just allowed me to propel that summer.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So you did that from like second semester. So then in the summer you came in strong, and we're back. Where did you go back to? New York. This guy's the Wisconsin, New York, Miami, Australia guy, all
Yes,
around.
sir. No, definitely all around switching up locations, and bro, that's the beauty of wholesaling. I think you can be virtual and like we are and just like be able to move around, which I love. I would say that
Uh-huh.
summer I came back to New York because that's where my family lives, and I actually got a mentor that summer. That was like the biggest thing that I had, that wisdom realization. I have a new mentor now. I've been in and out of a couple groups and just got a lot of knowledge and lessons along the way. But that was a first big like, hey, let me get a mentor that sees value in me and I see value in him, and it was a great relationship where we were able to do deals together, and we just dialed in, got a few deals done that summer as a one man show, which was definitely nice to learn from, and just reopened that confidence and just allowed me to kind of keep the ground running with continuing it in school.
Beautiful. Okay. So what do you think like the biggest obstacle or like the biggest pickle you were in like out of your whole career, and how did you get out of it so other people don't have to go through that in their career?
I love your question. So, for starters, a lot of pickles that I've come into, and I know you've had a lot of pickles too, and that's why we are where we are.
Yeah.
So I believe that the more success that you have, the more pickles that you had to go through because it allowed you to really overcome those problems. And every single time you overcome one, you learn from it. So, what was probably one of the biggest? Huh, that is a good question. So, what's coming to mind is, and I'll talk about it because it's current. I have
Yeah.
a deal right now that is on hold. I'm confident it's going to close because a lot of the moving parts occurred, but I think I think it's okay to talk about this one. It's pretty funny. So I would say,
Mhm.
and I think this is great to address too. If you had to ask me in one word, how would I describe the wholesale industry? I would call it just situational. That would be my response
Yeah.
because a lot of the
Uh huh.
time, bro, you're just figuring out random things that aren't even related to real estate. And that's where this
Yup.
example ties in, which comes back to your
Mhm.
question. So I have a
Find the
deal
pickles.
in, bro, there's an immense amount of pickles in this one deal. So with this one, it's
Okay.
a cash deal where the seller is an older lady. super sweet,
Yeah.
and she
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, her husband passed away, and
Got you.
her husband's aunt and uncle were originally the two owners of this house. Both at different
Uh-huh.
times, the uncle passed away, and then the house got deeded to the aunt, and then the aunt passed away. The house got deeded to like the current seller's husband, and then he passed away. So it essentially three deaths removed. We have our seller, and the quick version is we just thought it was a normal probate. Go through all the motions. We get a nice assignment locked in, buyer, EMD down, everything's looking good. And title comes back and it's like, hey, the seller doesn't have the right to sell the property. I'm like, what are you talking about? So essentially, the first probate person, it was in an estate, and that estate was never properly broken down with this property. So there were three deaths removed, and basically, and there's a bunch of siblings in this family as well that all believe they have rights to this property, which we didn't know about either. So all these like skeletons
Wow.
are coming out of the closet. So at first, we just thought it was a dead deal, but the title company, who she's been phenomenal, was like, hey, there's this um, like I don't even it probably is an insurance attorney. This insurance attorney that knew the family. So it wasn't like an estate attorney or anything like that, but they just had history with the family and knew what they had going on. So that was the lead, I guess. So I basically call that attorney. And that's not wholesaling. That's just like figuring it out, getting on the phone and calling. So what
So the
happened
title
was the
company gave you that number, or how would someone get that
title
number?
yeah, the title
Okay,
company
title.
just knew the person through the industry,
Uh-huh.
which was cool. They gave me that number. I call, the paralegal answers, who is also super
Uh-huh.
sweet. Her attorney, I'm like, hey, is so and so available? Like, I got to talk to him about this deal. He got ran over by a tractor within that week. So just like,
What in the world? The
yeah,
lawyer?
just like the lawyer got ran over by a tractor. So he was like on bed rest. Luckily, he lived. He's doing
Where?
much better now. But
Where's the
I
deal
based
at?
Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I
Okay.
said,
So he's
yeah.
gonna
So
have
like
grass over there.
they might. We should probably mute out the city just until the deal closes. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, when that happened, the attorney, because it will be easy to trace. But this attorney, he got he got ran over by a tractor, and then his paralegal didn't have what we needed, and she also, it wasn't really their like jurisdiction. Like she's like, I'm not an estate attorney. I shouldn't be able to help you. Like I will because I'm sweet. But basically, she gave me another attorney to contact who was tied to the family, and then that attorney was involved. But there was also a third person that we had to talk to and coordinate them, get them to sign a bunch of different documents, schedule a time for a notary, and this is like weeks of phone tag, email tag, because you know how attorneys are. And essentially, after all of that, we still need the five heirs that hate each other to all sign the same document. So, like, that's
Yeah.
what's going on right now. So now we're trying to do that, where they all want to get a piece, and it's just like a whole mess. And this is like, closing was supposed to be a month ago. So, like, it's looking good, and all the pieces are moving, but it's just like hilarious. But back to and I was a longer story with the quick version. But I guess the biggest moral that I took away from that is none of that has any sort of relation to my ability to close sellers on the phone or assign contracts to buyers. It is all situational, just dealing with people, which I guess is like sales, but just like talking to people and figuring it out, because this person gave me this phone number and then that gave me this jigsaw piece of the puzzle, and then I had to call this person, send this email, and get this email from someone else. And it was just like, what does that have to do with our skill
Endless.
sets?
Yeah.
Endless.
So where's the deal at right now? A lot of pickles here. Like, did you solve it
A lot of
or
pickles.
what's?
I would say most of the pickles have been sliced and put on my kosher sandwich that I'm going to eat after our podcast here. And essentially, the last one we
Soon we'll
got,
be
I'm
having
actually,
merch that says kosher pickle, guys, or Sher pickle,
yeah,
right?
either way, I think kosher pickle will definitely be on a t-shirt and a hat coming to you very soon. And maybe when we hyphenate it, if you will. We got the KO and then the hyphen and then SHER, which would be funny.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that is
And yeah, bro. And where the deal's at now is essentially the person that has to sign, because the seller can't sign because she's not on paperwork the rightful seller. It's essentially an appointed personal representative who got appointed by the first deceased owner who like has the trust. So essentially, this person who actually turned out to be one of the attorneys is currently trying to get all the heirs that don't like each other to sign. And then after that, he'll have to coordinate with our title agent, which should be the easiest part. Once we get the heir signatures, it gets closed, everyone gets paid, and we will see when that happens. But essentially, this has been a very, very fun, story worthy process of getting all these contacts.
okay. Beautiful. So you had to jump through a lot of hoops to get this deal done. Like it's gonna be a battle in all these deals. So people have to be ready to fight these battles in wholesaling. You can't give up. You gotta be persistent. These key disciplinary activities are gonna be what wins the race in this industry, and eventually, not only will you be wholesaling, you want to start buying properties, right? So, what kind of properties do you want to buy?
Yeah, no, I would love to dive into that, and I couldn't agree more with what you said there, Justin. People have to be prepared to definitely go the distance and go that extra mile for getting a deal done. There's a lot of people online that are going to glorify the wholesale industry, tell you that it's a get rich quick scheme. It is by far not that. And for you to genuinely build a systemized, like predictable system, you need to have a sales process. You need to have key performance indicators that you're tracking. You need to really allocate enough time to get something running and then take that capital and invest it back into the machine to generate more deals. And I think that something else that's beautiful about wholesaling is that it allows you to source your own deals if you were going to buy investment properties. So whether it's a cash fix and flip or just like a creative finance type of deal for buying rentals, that will allow people like Justin and I and other cash buyers to physically get involved with these deals. So right now, I just started looking in my portfolio. So if you have any single family, and when I say that, I mean 2 to 4 units, not one unit in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I would love to talk to you because I'm not going to count your money. I'm a wholesaler just like you are. And if I'm going to buy some properties, I'm going to make sure that it makes sense for you as well to be compensated.
Beautiful. So, 2 to 4 units, Milwaukee. You are ready to purchase. Bird dogs, wholesalers, anyone. Find Ryan some deals ASAP. Where can these guys contact you and do business with you for wholesaling, buying, and just getting to know each other and be friends potentially?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. Ryan Sher, SHER is my last name, underscore. You can find me on Facebook, and those are probably the biggest way. And TikTok, Sure Thing Ryan, as well as YouTube. So those are my four handles. Linktree coming soon near you as well. And yeah, I'm also comments, DMs are always open. Any guidance that you're looking for, whether it's your first deal, you want a JV on a deal, and you help with dispo, or you just like me, you're a hungry guy that that saw this and you wanted to reach out to Justin or myself for help with the closings as well as dispo and just kind of having a handhold type of service. We're both definitely here to help. We know what it was like because just like Justin was there for me, there were people that were there for him, and I think
Yeah.
that's definitely great to be able to give back
Compound.
and compound, bro, and just be able to help each other win. I think that's the biggest thing. And then Justin, where besides you two, where they're seeing this, where can they find you, and will you be buying property soon? And if so, what's your buy box for everybody?
Yeah, so I am buying properties in Michigan for fix and flips, preferably not in Detroit, but outside of Metro Detroit, and then definitely will consider sub 2 single family rental here or any kind of cash flowing commercial property for in Michigan, Texas, for mobile home parks, RV parks we're looking at a lot, and would love to get into more apartments or self-storage. Really it comes down to cash flowing on day one or a major profitable value add that can make us millions. Alright? So I would say
Value add.
that's what I'm buying. What was your other question?
Where can I find you? And I want to
Oh
throw in
yeah.
this as well. Well,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead and then I'll ask you that. I want to hear where they
Alright.
can find you, and then I'll throw in the question.
Yeah, so you can go to my website, justinpickell.com, and just my name, and you can pretty much find me anywhere on the internet, Instagram, Facebook, and reach out to me via DMs, and we can collaborate and do some deals. So,
Love it. I guess to kind of, I think this is a great place where we can leave off here, bro. What would be your biggest piece of advice to wholesalers just starting out, and then also those
mhm.
wholesalers that maybe have been trying for the past 2 to 4 months that have not gotten their first deal? They're feeling discouraged, they're tired, they're just feel like they're turning a wheel with their follow-up sequence. What would you tell those guys to get them over the hump?
I would kind of go to kind of what you were doing for while you were in Australia, but make it a little bit shorter, and maybe grab a journal and or just like meditate and really just think on everything you're doing and seeing where you're focusing your time, your energy, kind of looking at something else you were talking about, key performance indicators, how many calls were you making, what kind of leads were you calling, just like evaluating yourself. Like the more you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, the better. So once you get to that point, you need to understand who are you trying to become? What are your goals? So getting the clarity on where you want to focus, where I believe focus is follow one course until successful. So you need to be very clear on that and be persistently working on that. But you need to have not so many different marketing channels, I'd say. So you would be going all in on either direct to agent or direct to seller or potentially like the free course I'm giving out for people with limited time. Like do some connector stuff where you're finding other wholesalers who have the deals and you can find the buyers yourself, like through Facebook or Zillow or other platforms, or we can help you find the buyers, me, Ryan, other people, but we have Dispo lockdown nationwide, and either one of us can help you. So that is what I'd recommend. One of those three things, but going all in on one of them. Direct to sellers, you got to have money. Direct to agent can be free, and bird dogging can be free. All right, so that's what I'd
Hey
say.
Justin,
Pick one.
how many buyers nationwide do you have again?
I'd say we have about like 7 million around there.
7 million guys. You need a deal sold quick that you don't know about, and you're in a pickle. This is your guy right here.
100%. I appreciate that, Ryan. And I think the same thing goes for you. So both of us going to Ryan is just like going to me. Help each other out and let's collaborate and do some deals together.
100%.
So,
Just like Justin and I met each other online. All it takes is just one text, one phone call. Just put yourself out there, guys, because when people have the same core values as you, when you're just genuinely hungry for self improvement, success, bettering your life, no one that's on the same trajectory as you is going to shoo you away. So when there's people like us out here, we want to help. There's a lot of other people like us. You just gotta go through the weeds and find them, but we do exist. So don't hesitate to
yeah,
reach out, and we'll all succeed together.
100%. I appreciate you coming on here, Ryan, and I'm looking forward to maybe doing another one here in person next time. Go
In
deeper
person,
on some.
Justin. We're due,
Yeah,
bro. We're definitely due to happen. And yeah, I appreciate you having me.
yeah, my pleasure. Peace.